Welcome you all for the second part of the lesson, Human Urinary System. Let's see what you are going to learn from this lesson. Process of urine formation, role of hormones on the function of kidneys, role of kidney in homeostasis. Urine is formed inside the kidney. It is happen under 3 steps: ultrafiltration, selective reabsorption, and secretion. Ultrafiltration. Ultrafiltration is the filtration of blood under high pressure into the cavity of the Bowman's capsule. This filtration process occurs through the capillary walls of glomerulus and inner wall of the Bowman's capsule. Blood capillaries of glomerulus and inner lining of the Bowman's capsule are specialized for this ultrafiltration process. You know that there is a difference between the afferent and efferent arteriole in their diameter. Diameter of the afferent arteriole is larger than the efferent arteriole. Therefore, the blood in glomerulus is under high pressure. And also, blood capillaries of glomerulus are porous. Therefore, this allows the passage of water and small solutes through the blood capillary walls into the Bowman's capsule. Inner lining of the Bowman's capsule is also specialized because they have some cells called podocytes. These podocytes and this inner lining of the Bowman's capsule allowed the filtrate to enter into the capsular space. The filtrate is mostly similar in composition to the blood plasma. It contains water, salts, amino acids, glucose, vitamins, nitrogenous waste, some drugs and other small molecules. But due to the large size, plasma proteins, blood cells and platelets cannot enter into the filtrate. Then, this glomerular filtrate passes to the proximal convoluted tubule. Selective reabsorption is the second step in urine formation. Most of the reabsorption from the glomerular filtrate back into the blood take place in the convoluted tubule. Selective reabsorption is important because there are more useful molecules, ions and water in the glomerular filtrate. If this glomerular filtrate exits from the nephron, it will remove from the body with urine. Therefore, these useful molecules, ions and water should be reabsorbed or regained into the blood. This reabsorbed ions or solutes first enters into the interstitial fluid. Then it enters into the capillary network of the tubules. You know that there are peritubular capillary network and vasa recta capillary network. So these reabsorbed molecules are entered into these capillary networks. Therefore, these valuable components again can travel through the body. So, selective reabsorption can take place either actively or passively. red colored arrow shows if it is happening actively and green colored arrow shows if it is happening passively. In the proximal convoluted tubule, glucose, amino acids and sodium ions are actively reabsorbed, and chloride, potassium, bicarbonate and water is passively reabsorbed. Bicarbonate ion is involved in changing the pH of blood. To maintain a constant pH level, reabsorption of bicarbonate is important, and major portion of water reabsorption of the filtrate taken place in the proximal convoluted tubule. When this filtrate moves into the descending limb of the loop of Henle, you know that the descending limb of the loop of Henle is permeable to water. Because of that, when the filtrate moves down, water reabsorbed through passive transport. Therefore, the filtrate becomes more concentrated. But when it moves up through the ascending limb, water reabsorption does not take place because ascending limb is impermeable to water. But sodium chloride reabsorption taken place along the ascending limb of loop of Henle. Therefore, this filtrate becomes more diluted as it moves towards the distal convoluted tubule. When it comes to the distal convoluted tubule, selective reabsorption of sodium ions, bicarbonate ions taken place actively. And again, chloride ions, water reabsorption taken place passively. Secretion is the next step in urine formation. Secretion is happening at the opposite direction of the reabsorption. That means materials from the peritubular capillaries and interstitial fluid enters into the filtrate. This is required because some substances may not be entirely filtered when they are in the glomerulus due to the short time they remain in the glomerulus. Therefore, when the efferent arteriole leaves the glomerulus, it forms the peritubular capillaries by surrounding the distal and proximal convoluted tubules, and these from the peritubular capillaries they secrete the waste materials and some ions again into the filtrate. This secretion process also can happen actively or passively. In the proximal convoluted tubule, hydrogen ions, drugs such as penicillin and aspirin, and creatinine are actively secreted, and ammonia is passively secreted. Tubular secretion of H+ and ammonia are important to maintain the normal pH in the blood. In the distal convoluted tubule, hydrogen ions and potassium ions are actively secreted. Because of the water reabsorption taken place at the convoluted tubules and the secretion process, the filtrate in the convoluted tubules become more concentrated. This diagram gives you the summary in urine formation. Urine formation has 3 steps as ultrafiltration, selective reabsorption and secretion. ultrafiltration happens between the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule, and from the ultrafiltration, a filtrate is produced inside the capsular space. This filtrate has some valuable components to the body. Because of that, these valuable components are selectively reabsorbed when it passes through the convoluted tubules and the loop of Henle. This process happens actively or passively. And through the secretion, some waste products that were not filtered during the ultrafiltration are inserted into the convoluted tubules from the peritubular capillaries and the interstitial fluid. From these processes, when it comes to the distal convoluted tubule, the filtrate becomes more concentrated. The distal convoluted tubule also plays an important role in regulating K+ and sodium chloride concentration of body fluids. Kidney is involved in osmotic regulation. That means it helps to maintain the balance in solute concentrations. In here you can see potassium ion actively secreted and the sodium chloride actively reabsorbed at the distal tubule. And this process can be varied according to the needs of the body. Distal tubule also contribute to pH regulation by controlled secretion of H+ ions and reabsorption of bicarbonate ions. The filtrate of the distal convoluted tubule finally leads to the collecting duct. As the filtrate passes along the collecting duct, filtrate become more concentrated because sodium chloride reabsorption taken place at the collecting duct and also water reabsorption taken place at the collecting duct. Then this filtrate become more concentrated and urine is formed. Because of the high urea concentration in the filtrate at this region, some urea can diffuse into the interstitial fluid. Final processing of the filtrate at the collecting duct forms the urine. Antidiuretic hormone ADH and aldosterone are involved in the function of kidneys. When the blood osmotic pressure increases, that means solute concentration in blood has increased. This is censored by the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus. It gives a signal to stimulate posterior pituitary gland, and this increases the secretion of antidiuretic hormone. This acts on the kidneys. Then the kidneys increase the reabsorption of water by distal convoluted tubules and collecting ducts. Because of that, more water enters into the blood. Therefore, blood osmotic pressure returns to normal. Then it gives a signal to inhibit the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus. And osmotic pressure could be normalized by generating thirst. Because of the thirst, we have to drink more water. Because of drinking more water, water content in the body increases. Therefore, the blood osmotic pressure returns to normal. You can see from here that from the ADH, it helps to increase the selective reabsorption of water from distal convoluted tubule and also from the collecting duct. Therefore, more water enters into the blood and it makes more concentrated urine. Aldosterone hormone helps to maintain a normal blood pressure and volume. Blood pressure and blood volume can be dropped due to dehydration or blood loss. This is censored by the sensors in kidney. Because of that, kidneys secrete renin. Renin acts on the angiotensinogen from liver and convert it into angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 convert into angiotensin 2 by angiotensin converting enzyme. Angiotensin 2 act on adrenal gland. This produces aldosterone and aldosterone increase the reabsorption of Na plus and H2O in diluted tubules. This increases the blood volume and blood pressure. And angiotensin 2 can also act on arterioles and it helps to constrict arterioles and increase the blood pressure. Then the blood pressure becomes normal. Aldosterone hormone stimulates active reabsorption of sodium ion and passive reabsorption of water at the distal convoluted tubule and also at the collecting ducts. It also increases excretion of potassium ion at the distal convoluted tubule. Urine collected into the renal pelvis through the collecting ducts then entered into the ureter, and from the ureter it comes into the urinary bladder, and urinary bladder urine is temporarily stored, and from the urethra urine is removed from the body. Now let's see what are the roles of kidney in homeostasis. Kidney maintain solute concentrations and water balance in the body fluids. That means it helps to osmoregulation. Kidney excrete toxic waste products from the body. That means it helps in excretion. It regulates blood pH through acid-base balance and control blood volume and blood pressure. It secretes erythropoietin hormone that stimulates red blood cell production, and it produces and secretes renin enzyme that is important in control of blood pressure. I hope that you all get a good knowledge about human urinary system. Thank you. Have a good day.